Hello, and welcome. Welcome to our workshop today. I'm super excited to have everyone here, and hopefully we'll all be able to learn a little bit about the different tools and the different opportunities that Microsoft is providing inside of their Office suite. So in our workshop today for Microsoft Tools for Special Needs Students, I will basically be bringing this to you by Logix Technology and by Microsoft. So because the training is being provided by Logix and the tools by Microsoft, we just figured it's important to bring that up and to mention them. My name is Damien, and I'm very fortunate to be here. I used to work at Microsoft, and I was a K-12 and higher ed Microsoft trainer with a specific and passionate focus on accessibility. So it was kind of my dream come true to see individuals and users to be able to use this technology and to actively implement it in their everyday lives, right? Because not everybody always knows that that these tools and these amazing things are offered to them. I'm also based in Mississauga in Toronto, Ontario, so I'm pretty local, hopefully, to some of you. Now, as I mentioned, Logix Technology is providing the training here, but there's also Logix Academy. So if you're interested, there's lots of great products and different STEM tools that can be observed and procured through that website there. So I would very much recommend to go and check that out. And also as a brief kind of global national vision, this is the impact that Logix has made so far across the country. And it's pretty fantastic to see that. The slide actually isn't even updated completely yet because we are also impacting parents and guardians of different students and of children. So I'm super excited to be a part of that movement. So let's take a look at the agenda today. So essentially, what we're going to be covering is some of my favorite features that I love showcasing to others. The first one being Immersive Reader and how that is essentially available in every tool available in Microsoft. Whether that's Word, whether that is OneNote, you can even find that in Teams, which is pretty cool. Next, I'm going to be showcasing Presenter Coach and how Presenter Coach can improve the soft skills of your child or your student, and even potentially yourself as a professional. It's a remarkable tool, and I can't wait to show you that. We're going to be talking a little bit about different accessibility features that can be found inside of Word and PowerPoint, and so that might include, subtitles, that might include dictation, and even things such as editor. So we're going to dabble a little bit inside of that. We're also going to touch on Office Lens, where personally I'll be using an Android device, but it is important to note that Office Lens, or sorry, Microsoft Lens as it's now called, because of the consumer name change, is available on iOS devices as well. So whether you're accessing that through a phone, through a tablet on both the iOS and Android ecosystems, it is available to you for free. And lastly, for those of us that are using Windows 10 devices, I'm going to jump into the settings a little bit and just showcase some cool tools about how we can change your everyday usage, and also specifically where to find everything that can help out your students and your children to be able to access even more. So I'm really excited to show that. But without further ado, let's just dive right in and really kind of showcase the power of these tools. So I'm going to start in the web browser, and the reason I'm doing that is because it is the most universal version of these tools available across the board, which means that if you're using an Apple device, if you're using potentially a Chromebook, if you're using a Windows device, this will be universal and will be the same for everybody that wants to access it. And the way that I actually navigated here is I'm just going to quickly open up in private browser. Is I went to portal.office.com, to which I entered a sign in. If this is through your school, then they might customize it, and there might be some, some visual background behind this login, but this would be the best way to access that. Or even those of us following at home, here's how you can do that. So once you sign in, you're going to enter your Office 365 dashboard. I just opened up all my apps, which you can click on the bottom left here, and I have everything open in front of me. So this was everything inside of my tenancy, and this may or may not be similar to you as well. So because we're starting off with Immersive Reader, let's dive into Word. And I do have a document that's ready to go over here. So, oops. So let me just reopen that again. There we go. Not sure why that first one didn't work out, but alas, that's technology. So when we have our document here, I went ahead and I pre-populated it. All I did was I went to Logic's website and I went to their About Us and put in some different information here. What I will do is I will show a brief example where I can just take it visually and then also showcase how that happens in real time. So now that we're here, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I want to highlight the tabs at the top and the ribbon. So this is pretty familiar because we're used to seeing this in the desktop versions. But we have our file, we have our home, our insert and layout, and our references and review tabs. I want to specifically highlight to the view over here. And this is where we can find Immersive Reader. So I'm going to zoom out so that we can see this a little bit better, and I'm going to click Immersive Reader. And just like that, immediately it has simplified the text into one very easily legible kind of standard. And you can also see that it eliminated the picture. So it eliminated any pictures and focused on the text inside of the document. So the UI and the layout of this is pretty simple, but let's walk through together. On the top right, we can see our text preferences by the two capital A's. So when I click on text preferences, I'm able to adjust my text size accordingly to my preference. So if I wanted this to be a little bit larger, I'm able to do that at my own leisure. I can go ahead and make it as a 96 font or readjust to my needs. In addition is that automatically everything is already spaced out. So it has this increased spacing option. As an example, let's focus specifically on how this looks like right now on the left-hand side. And when I turn this off, we can see how big of a change that becomes for the end user. So by increasing that spacing, we're able to actually, in a way, see each word as the letter is being spelled and developed. We have the option to also change our fonts. So whether we want it to fit a different kind of preference there. And my favorite too is that you can change the themes or the backgrounds of this text. So personally, I prefer a dark background with a white text. To me, this gives my eyes a breath of fresh air, so to speak. But you do have the different options to make something a little bit more traditional. So perhaps you want something that is resemblant to an actual piece of paper like this. Or maybe you would like to have something that is a little bit better in terms of legibility, or ultimately at the user as well, right? So it's pretty critical to have that personalization and that individualization for the student as well. I'm going to go ahead and revert back to the original color. Or actually, I'll use the sepia. So now let's navigate to the middle icon here, the grammar options. The first thing we can do is that we can break up these syllables. So when I click that, we are able to observe that there are now little dots, little bullet points that break up each word by the way that they are pronounced. So again, this is pretty powerful, right? Because we're able to really break up the word and help the reader and the end user. Again, this can be a student, this can be your child, this can be yourself as a professional, and really be able to read what is in front of you. On top of that, I have my parts of speech. So I'm able to highlight in different colors, perhaps my nouns or my verbs. In this case, let's go up to adjectives. So I have 3 different colors that is being highlighted throughout my text. I do have the option to personalize it differently. So maybe I want an orange to be my noun, and perhaps I want my verb to be purple, a dark purple. So I'm able to customize the way that I prefer my colors like that. However, we can also turn on labels, which is pretty impactful potentially for students that might be colorblind or anything else, right? Where we're able to see the nouns, the verbs, and the adjectives on top of each word and ultimately describe what that is. I'm going to turn all these off for now, just so that I can move on to the last bit. And this third tab at the top allows us to choose our reading preferences. So when I select line focus, I'm able to specifically highlight one line at a time. So perfect, again, for anyone who might have some sort of learning disability, to be able to focus on what is important and being read at that time. Due to the size of my text, as I didn't have too many word count inside of my document, I don't have these 2 other options available. But if I had a larger word count, then I would be able to open up to 3 lines and also to 5 lines as well, depending on how I want to read and how fast I want to go through. We also have something called a picture dictionary. So what picture dictionary does is that we've worked with Boardmaker to incorporate this. So for example, if I click classroom, I'm able to get a different picture and different variants of what, that picture might look like, or sorry, that classroom might look like. So we have a traditional chalkboard, and we even have it looks like a smartboard at the back over there. So it's pretty great to have a more immersive way and a visual way to describe these different words. Or home will give me different variants of the picture of a home as well. And lastly, which is my favorite, is that we can translate this entire text right within the tool. So it has over, I believe, 60 languages that is supported. And let's go ahead and go to French Canada in case some of our students might be in French immersion. So I can specifically go between each word, or I can also highlight the entire document as well. And so now this highlighted document has been translated, right? And I can jump between the original text, which was English, and the translated text, which was French. So at the bottom, right, let's bring this to life. I can change the voice speed, and I can change it between female and male. But if I'm okay with that one speed, I'm going to click play, and it will play it back out to us in the language that it is currently translated.
Ce que nous faisons. Logic Academy est un chef de file canadien dans la fourniture de solutions de STEAM, de robotique et de codage.
That's pretty cool. Not every language, I do want to stress, is supported, and you would know that it's not supported to be read out loud when this is grayed out, when the play icon cannot be activated, essentially. So that is kind of the powerful tool of Immersive Reader. And as promised, I'm just going to do a very quick example of what it would look like if I took a quick piece of text. So let's go ahead and I personally love to learn about fitness. So avocados and health. So for me, I love learning about any kind of health and fitness. So WebMD looks pretty good. Let's see what we can do about avocados. This might play. No, okay. So what is an avocado? Let's go ahead and let's jump right in. And I'm just going to start a new page over here where I'm going to paste So now I can go ahead and go back to Immersive Reader. And just like that, we have my what is an avocado, right? And just like it was simple, it was quick, and it was quite easy to simply search up what you wanted to use, paste it in, and then now you're able to implement Immersive Reader. So that's kind of the live demo for that. Now, as I mentioned, this can be used inside of OneNote. This can be used inside of Word, inside of Teams. So just about anywhere that you're using your Office subscription, you have access to this. Okay, so now that we've talked about Immersive Reader, let's jump into our next demo, which is Presenter Coach. Before we jump in, I'm just going to take a pause. I'm going to let anybody catch up, maybe finish writing down some notes. And as we're waiting, as I won't be speaking, I'll just be loading up the next demo, essentially. We'll be able to continue from there. Okay, so hopefully we were able to quickly essentially review everything that we wanted to write down and to hopefully implement that at a future date. So now that we're in PowerPoint, I want to showcase something really cool called Presenter Coach. And Presenter Coach is a newer tool. It's probably about a year and a half old. And essentially what it allows to do is it allows the professional or the student or anybody to rehearse their presentation ahead of time, and it will give you live feedback in addition to a summary on what you can improve on. So I'm always a little bit nervous when I'm about to present this because it will judge based on how I talk a little bit. So I'll try to make it as flawed as possible in order to showcase the true power of it. So let me zoom in a little bit more, and I'm going to take the attention, oops, I zoomed in a little too much. I'm going to take your attention back to the top tabs over here. So the same that we saw with Word, where we had File, we had Home, Insert, but we're going to jump all the way to Slideshow, and we're going to go ahead and click that. So I'm able to do live captions, but at the time, I'm not going to be doing that right now since I'm already presenting. And right here, I can see Rehearse with Coach. In this drop-down menu, I can also show body language feedback. So it will be able to give me the live feedback on my body language, the way I present. So we're gonna check that off. There's gonna be a lot of things happening, and hopefully we can do that. So let's click Rehearse with Coach. We should see at the bottom, so it doesn't have any camera access because I'm currently using my camera. So let's just quickly go ahead and click it without the camera access, and it should start up. But if not, essentially, let me uncheck that. Sorry about that. Perfect. So because my camera is already being engaged, it won't actually use the camera, which is why it wouldn't let me to begin rehearsing. But with that being said, let's actually start. So if I want to start presenting and try to practice, and I'm not really comfortable right now, it will automatically point out that I'm using a lot of filler words. So I used ums and uhs because perhaps I wasn't ready. I wasn't too prepared for this presentation. So it automatically referenced that live. This next demo, it'll come full circle, and I'll show what I mean by that. But let me talk really, really fast. And it's okay if you're not catching everything I'm saying right now, because I'm just trying to make a point for a later presentation. And so I'm just trying to think anything. So that's cool. It noticed that I was speaking too fast. And it told me that I should maybe slow down a little bit and take it easy, take a pause, maybe take a breath, and that's okay. So it gave me that live feedback about what it is I'm really doing. Let's try to think of a word like right on. So we're going to talk about meeting etiquette, right on, and please let's just right on, keep our mic muted and keep our camera off. If you're doing that, right on. That's pretty awesome. And hopefully me saying that a few more times, saying right on, will trigger again later on. The next thing I'm going to demonstrate is, let's start reading off the slide. So, meeting etiquette. Please keep your mic muted unless called upon to speak. Please keep your camera off unless you wish to give a quick hello. So now the presenter coach is telling me that I need to try to be a little bit more creative. I need to be a little bit more original than simply reading off of the slides, right? And it's being able to give that live feedback. Let's do one more example. I'm going to try to create a story on the spot. Let's say I was rehearsing this while cooking dinner. And as I'm cooking dinner, I mixed up the oil, a lot of smoke came out, and suddenly the fire alarm went off in my house. I was pretty scared that, a fireman was going to have to come and put out the fire. So lastly, we're able to see how a fireman might not be inclusive and that we should potentially use firefighter, right? Or something that's a little bit more neutral. So with all that being said, let's actually pause this session now. And before I end it, I do just want to point out that had I been able to showcase that my body language, it will provide prompts such as maybe if I was covering my face like this, to keep my face clear. It would prompt you that maybe if you're standing, with your arms crossed or the way that you're presenting, to have a little bit more open body language, and also to keep the same distance and a respectful distance away from the camera. Excuse me. So those were the kind of things that would have shown up had the camera been able to be used. Let's go ahead and actually end this, and we will see this pop up. So it is our overview of the entire rehearsal. So as we can see, I had used some filler words such as ums, us, likes, and you knows. And that is great because now I know potentially I need to be more confident in what I'm presenting. It highlights the sensitive phrases that we were using. So instead of saying a fireman or even a firewoman, we should say firefighter and just generally include all of that. It also highlighted the different repetitive language. So I tried to say that through right on. Instead, it picked up okays and reallys. So this is what I mean by I always get scared about presenting this because it just targets exactly everything that I might even potentially need to improve on. But that's great. I'll take all the feedback I can get. My pace was good. And so it highlights in a green, a yellow, a red, exactly where my pace is. Should I speed up? Should I slow down a little bit? Remember when I was talking really fast and it told me I should slow down a little bit? We can actually see that happen here. So we can see I started talking really, really fast, that it went out of the comfort zone that people tend to be able to absorb that information. And this is when it prompted to slow down, to which I slowed down quite a bit. So overall, we kept our pace. And it even refines some of your speeches. So I, at one point on slide 1, said, let's actually start, and when I could have just said, let's start or let's begin. Lastly, my pitch. So I tend to have just a lower pitch. That's something I always try to improve on. It caught that, and it caught that, just due to the lower volume of the way I speak, I tend to be a little bit monotone sounding. But it, again, lets me know, hey, I got to improve on that, right? I got to be able to understand when I am being monotone or when I'm able to add some variation there. This is where the originality shows up at the very bottom. So when I was reading word for word and I wasn't being original enough, this is now where I can see which slides did I read off the words. This blank space over here is where the body the body reports, or basically the feedback for your body language, would show up. So again, because we weren't able to unfortunately demonstrate that, it's not available here. But all in all, a pretty good example of how we can practice in life. We don't have to pretend to present to our parents or our pets anymore. Instead, we have something that will give us that feedback right back. So I hope that was super impactful and super useful for everybody on here. I love using that tool myself. It's pretty phenomenal, and I hope it was great for you. So again, I'm going to take another pause since that's another kind of segment of our session, and let me just take a minute break this time because that was a lot of content. There was a lot to write in. So if anyone's finishing typing up or writing down, then we are able to go ahead and catch up. So in the meantime, let me just go back to Word. Let me prepare kind of the next couple of demos that we're going to showcase, and then we'll begin again. Okay, so now that we've hopefully had a few individuals, catch up and be able to finish writing down anything that they found important, let's dive into our next few demos for accessibility. The current one that I want to demonstrate, and just as a heads up, is that most of these, if not all of the tools I'm showcasing, are available in desktop versions as well. So if you're happening to use a desktop version on Windows and for most of the features on Mac as well, then it would be available there. So I'm going to be showcasing the dictate function. Okay, so I'm able to transcribe and dictate, but when I click dictate, I'm able to simply talk into my mic and it will put everything down on paper, which is pretty powerful, period. As you just noticed, I was able to use certain phrases to add, in this case, it was a period, but I can add other forms of punctuation and it will trigger based off my pause at the end, period. That's pretty cool, right? So I'm able to now utilize my document and be able to simply talk to it. Maybe I think better out loud and I need to be able to speak my mind for my ideas to come out. This is a perfect way and a perfect example of how that can be implemented. Now, another thing that actually, let's use this example right here. Another thing that we can leverage inside of Word is something called Editor. So when I click on Editor, and by the way, all of this was found in the Home tab. I forgot to mention that. So at the top, we have our Home, our Insert, our Layout references, all that. It's in the Home, so it's in the first tab technically. So to zoom out again, I have an editor. So inside of all of my documents, it will be able to let me know kind of what I can improve and how I can change the different ways I am utilizing this document. So I can see in grammar, it's actually recommending I put a comma afterwards. And let me actually increase this text size a little bit so we can all see what's happening. But it was, I'll highlight over here, it was recommending I put a period after that comma over there. So now let's begin typing an example. Cool. So now I can go back to my editor and it will automatically update what I need to do. So maybe I can add that different period over there. And these document stats at the bottom are able to kind of highlight exactly what I can do with this. So they're not showing up right now, but essentially it will be able to let me know what's an approximate reading time that I need with this document, or what is something else that I can leverage. So let's actually turn that a little bit lower and see if that changed anything. So what will also occasionally happen is that at the top, you will be able to choose what kind of formality you want to write your document in. So whether it's like a strong formal writing tool, whether you want a bit more of a casual style, and you'll be able to change that. Let's see if maybe I can make a brand new document and it'll pop up over there. But in the meantime, while that creates, actually, it seemed to beat me to it. Let's go ahead and turn on editor. So same thing. So that's okay. The online version doesn't want to work with me right now. But where it would happen is it would show up right above corrections over here underneath editor score, and you will be able to change the different way that you want to type out your document or your text. So now the editor is kind of accomplished there, I want to showcase one more cool thing, which is called the translation tool inside of Word. So this can be found inside of our review tab, right over here, inside of translate. So, oops, sorry, I added a comment by accident. So I'm able to translate a selection or even a document inside of the drop-down tab over there. But let's just click the translate button, the big one right over here. So automatically, I'm able to start typing away a part or a phrase of the document that I want. And I've selected French Canada for, again, French immersion. It might be a little bit easier to relate to. But let me begin to type something out. So on the spot, it's able to translate to French, right? And it will correct that punctuation and that grammar as I continue writing. Also, when I highlight over each word over here, so let's go to heureux or je suis heureux, it will tell me the definition of heureux is happy, or the adjective of it could be glad. So I am now able to get these different, these entirely different translations and understand in a formality context and the grammar aspect what it is I am translating. So now that I'm content and ready to go, I'm going to click insert. Actually, first let me put my cursor at the bottom here, and now I'm going to click insert, and my text right here is now put into the document, which is pretty cool and powerful. I can also translate this entire document. So if I wanted to auto detect, it will detect English for me. Maybe I'll take out this French just in case. But it will auto detect English and I can translate it to French. So all I need to do is click translate and it will translate the entire document into French. And now I have a saved version of that document. What is important to note about this is that it does not delete your original document. That is always going to be there. That is the original save file. What happened instead is that it created a new Word document that I was able to translate, right? So I can save this or I can print it, I can do any of that. And then I have a separate version of that document. So if I print something out, but I have someone else in my classroom, I have another peer or maybe another coworker that has a language barrier, I can do that and easily be able to communicate with them. So that's a really cool way that we can leverage this kind of technology. Okay, so that about covered my avocado. So that about covered for Word. I'm going to take a break, take a pause, and we're going to transition back into PowerPoint. So the pattern here was Word, PowerPoint, Word, PowerPoint. And I promise once we're done with this last PowerPoint, we're going to transition to a different style of demo where I will be able to showcase Office Lens, and then we're going to start the conclusion of our workshop. So let me take a pause briefly, and I will open up PowerPoint. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly make a new PowerPoint over here, and there's only a couple of different features. One of them already popped up, which is Designer. But essentially, how can students, how can your children, how can you make a better presentation that is visually appealing for something I personally struggled with a lot growing up, where I had all my content, I just couldn't make it look good. So let's quickly demonstrate what we can do to get that. I'll actually exit out of this so I can show you where to find that. So again, I mentioned I was pretty passionate in health and fitness. So let's go ahead and type that in. When I go into design, I can see the designer tab right over here. So once more, let me zoom in. We have all of our different tabs at the top, such as our home, our insert. We even have a draw tab as well. I went to the design tab. And so in the design tab, we went to the designer. And what that does is that it will generate different ideas. And so see how this changed, right? Perhaps you might remember, but the first set of designer options had bubbles as the first one. Now we have celery and looks like some sort of avocado smoothie, I'll bet. That is because it uses the AI technology built within Office to be able to see what is on your page over here and provide options that are tailored to your content. So now in seconds, I didn't even leave my PowerPoint presentation. I have a pretty visually, or a better visually described PowerPoint, even though it's just the first slide, that is resonated and applicable to my content, which is pretty quick. Now, I know I only have the one slide here, but let's also say that, you know, I'm ready to present this. I'm gonna scroll out once more just so I can reach the slideshow tab at the top. And I'm gonna click that. And I have two options here. I can always present live. So when I'm about to present to an audience, I can present live and basically it will generate a code that you can join it. Excuse me. So by joining into that code, you're able to, you know, give live reactions throughout the presentation, to which I can review afterwards, and you can kind of contribute to the community. But I also want to make sure that I always use subtitles. And so basically it will use artificial intelligence to, on the spot, use subtitles to provide a closed captioning for anybody that might require it. So let's make sure that my spoken language is in English and my subtitle language is also in English. However, see how I can change that? So I can speak in English and I can also translate into a different language. Let's actually translate that into French. And let's go ahead and click always use subtitles. So now let's try to go from the beginning here. And right from the start, we saw starting subtitles, and I can just begin to present. And at the bottom, it will now give me the subtitles that are automatically translated into French. So another perfect example of how we can begin breaking down those language barriers. We can begin breaking down the different ways that certain students are required and need to communicate with, whether they're their peers, maybe your child to yourself or to another teacher. this is the way to do that. And so you're able to also, at the end, you can transcribe what was said and then be able to move forward with that. So that's how we can use subtitles inside of PowerPoint once we're ready to present, which is pretty powerful. And using the designer, we can make some very pretty presentations in a fraction of the time. So with that being said, I'm going to basically stop sharing my screen over on my computer, and I will begin sharing on my phone. And what we're going to do is we are going to leverage Office Lens. Okay, so we can see I have a lot of notifications at the top. I put it on silent. Apparently I'm a very popular person right now, but that's okay. We're going to continue onwards. So let me go ahead and open up Office Lens right over here. So I keep saying Office Lens. I apologize for that. It is Microsoft Lens. That's how you will find it in the App Store. And you can quickly go to your iOS App Store. You can easily go to your Android App Store as well to be able to demonstrate and showcase that. So we see an orange kind of line that it's going pretty crazy right now. And we can actually see my little baby Yoda over there. But the orange line is looking for something to highlight. It is navigating and trying to observe what it is that we can take a picture of. Sorry, I didn't eliminate my text at the bottom there. Now we should be able to see. So with that being said, is I have different options. I can take a picture of a whiteboard. So it will just prop up a few different settings in terms of how that can be represented in a camera. I can do it of a document. I have different actions that I can switch to, but I won't go there right now. And I can also go towards a business card or just taking a standard photo as well. So that is what is available. But inside of a document, I'm going to bring over my book over here. So we have The First 90 Days by Michael D. Watkins. Very great book that I'd recommend if you're looking to make some great impact in the probation period of a new job. And what we're going to do is, I don't want to break the spine too much. I'm a little bit careful when it comes to that. But let's hold up the book. Maybe that'll give a better option. And we can see that it's trying to pinpoint the best page. And let's take a photo. So now that we took a photo, it automatically cropped everything. But for example, I have my thumb in the bottom left corner. I can still manually crop that out if I don't want to see that. I can change the way that this crop is working in order to provide the best option for me. So maybe I want to change it a little bit at the top. And now we're ready to go. We're pretty familiar with that. So I can click confirm. And I have now over here. So with all of this being said, is I have my text that I just briefly took a picture of, and it completely took everything, right? It was able to take a picture and crop it out perfectly. Now, I think another way that you can leverage this and see another true powerful method of it is to get just a sheet of paper, lay it flat, and then when you take a picture of that from top side, it will give you a much more flat, almost perfect photo. So you're able to leverage that. Okay. So at the bottom, we have a few different options. So we have filters. We can crop it even more, which simply just reverts back to that cropping that we were using. We can rotate this piece of photo as well in case we wanted to change that. But let's go to photos. So it already is, I have no filter right now. Sorry, filter, not photo. But perhaps if I had color, I can change that to a grayscale of sorts. So it'll change it a little bit just to make it a little bit more visually seen. Remember how I mentioned that I liked having that dark background? I can do that right within here. I'm able to take a picture of something that was literally paper, literally physical, and convert that into a digital way to have a better contrast, a better way to navigate that. Now, I'm going to go back to having no filter over there, but I can also apply this to all pages. So what that means is I can either apply it to this specific photo that I'm taking, or if I took a photo and uploaded multiple ones at a single time, I can apply it to all of them as well. So in this case, I'm going to click out of that, and we're going to go back here. And let's go into the More section, right? And when I click More, a few more things show up. For whatever reason, the screen recording doesn't show this, but essentially the only new things that are now included are a delete button, an ink, a text, and a reorder button. So I'm not going to delete it because we still want to showcase it. But there we go, it popped up. But I can go ahead and I can click ink. So if I wanted to specifically, highlight or circle, a title or a word or a page number or anything I want to divert my attention to, maybe I found that important that I want to be able to reference at a different time. So I'm able to provide inking and annotation directly to my photo in order to save that. So I'm going to undo all of that just because I personally don't need that, but it is possible to have all of that available for you. So when I reorder, I can also reorder the different pictures I took, whether I took them out of order, or maybe I want to put them all in a singular PDF. This layout is different than iOS, so I do want to be mindful of that. Is that the iOS has everything a little bit more laid out. This one is hidden a bit. So when I click Done, it's going to take that, and now I have a few options that I can use. So I can either save it directly into my gallery. I can also rename it. So I can specifically name it as Microsoft Tools for. I'll just name it as the title of this session, of this workshop. I can save it directly as a PDF or to my OneNote. So if I'm already leveraging OneNote in my classroom and I want to utilize that in every way possible, I can start to digitize all of my physical belongings and have that in one spot, which is pretty great. And at the bottom, we see something familiar. We see Immersive Reader, something that we started this off. So right from here, I'm able to turn on Immersive Reader, and I'm able to leverage it and use it on my phone. Let's just wait for it to load up. And there we go. So I might have had an issue personally, or maybe one of your children, one of your students, one of your professional peers. Maybe reading on paper was proving to be challenging. I was able to take a picture of that piece of page, and I just put it directly into my Immersive Reader, and I have the same functionality. So I have the same text sizing, the parts of speech. Excuse me. I can translate it again inside the line focus. So this is all some really powerful stuff, and I can obviously or unobviously read it out loud as well. So that's kind of the way that we can leverage Microsoft Lens. Sorry, let me officially say that now, inside of our tools. So I'm going to jump back into the call, and we're going to stop presenting off my phone. And welcome back. So now we're in the final stretch of our workshop, and I'm going to take another pause because we talked about a lot. And as I begin navigating away, and we're going to start going to go to the ease of access and the settings. If anyone wanted some notes, or again, to finish writing something down or typing something out, let's take a few seconds to be able to do that. Okay, so let me exit out of here. And I'm going to open up settings for Windows. So let's just take a few more seconds. Awesome. Let's dive into the last bit of our workshop. I hope you're all there. For everyone that is using a Windows device, thank you. That's awesome, and I appreciate you staying by. For those that don't use a Windows device, I would recommend just staying longer or staying on the workshop a bit longer, because in just a moment I'll give you a code that you can sign on and get recognized by Microsoft that you took this 1 hour training. So just hold out a little bit longer, and then we can all be able to successfully implement your training. So the first thing that I want to talk about is text or word prediction. Sorry, text prediction. So everything else that I will be talking about will be generally found in ease of access. But this one inside of the Windows setting will be found under devices. So when I go to devices and I go to typing over here, I'm able to, oops. Sorry, I just realized that I wasn't presenting these next things, I believe. So let me actually stop sharing and reshare everything once more. And hopefully you'll be able to see that. I'm so sorry about that. So luckily we didn't go too far. But I'm in my Windows settings right now. So if you're on a Windows device, you can simply click Windows tab or the Windows button at the bottom left corner, and then type in settings, and it will bring you up here. So the ease of access that I was talking about is right over here, but we're going to start navigating to devices first. So let's go ahead into typing. And we want to make sure that the show text suggestions as I type on the software keyboard shows on, but we also want to scroll down a little bit and go to hardware keyboard, and we want to show text suggestions as I type. We can also turn on autocorrect misspelled words. However, I personally don't like to do that because I want to know when I misspell something so I can learn how to properly spell that once more. So now that I turned this on, let's actually navigate back to I did close out everything. So let me open up a very quick Word document. Let's go back to document 1, which we briefly made. Okay. So now that we're here, this is different. I'm actually seeing predictions happen every word that I'm typing out. And I even see little emojis that can come up as well. So you're able to start personalizing the way that you're talking. Let me actually increase the size so we can all see a little bit better. So now everything I'm typing has a word prediction that I'm able to click and type out. I'm using this in Word right now, but you saw me navigate to a fresh online document for Word. This would work in offline. This would even work in Notepad or any other tool that you use, because this is a software. This is a Windows feature. So you don't have to worry about what program you're using. As long as you're using the operating system, you're good to go. So this is a great way that we can kind of have that similar to a mobile experience. When it predicts the word, we have the same thing available inside of our desktop as well. I'm going to go back now to our settings, and I want to navigate over to ease of access over here. So ease of access is kind of the one-stop shop for everything accessibility inside of Windows, with a few slight exceptions similar to what I just showed you of text predictions. Everything else will be found here. So you might have noticed that throughout this presentation, I had a slightly bigger cursor, and I had a different color as well. That's where we can find this. So we can increase our mouse pointer. So if we wanted to make it bigger and maybe a little bit more legible, to me that's a little bit too big. I think this should be fine. But we can change an inverted. So, excuse me, anything that we highlight over inverted, it will be able to automatically change that. And if I click the color wheel over here, I do have some automatic suggestions available, but you can also pick a custom color. So any color that you basically want on the color wheel, on the gradient. It is up to you. Again, Windows and Office and Microsoft is all about personalization. So once we're done and we're happy, we kind of have our mouse pointer. We can also change the way that the text cursor appears. So, if we want the thickness to be bigger, that's okay. We can change that. And we can even turn it on physically as well. So we have that available. The next tool is called Magnifier. So on a Windows shortcut, we can use the Windows plus to turn it on. And then to turn it off, we can just use Windows plus escape. So essentially what I can do is I'll just manually turn it on, but it turns on the magnifier. So what I'm able to do now is navigate using my cursor or potentially using the keyboard as well in different areas. I can change to what it's magnified as in order to zoom in and to maybe focus on what is truly important to me there. There was briefly, and if you might catch it, when I start this on, it didn't appear this time, but the first time it appeared as like a little grid that bordered. You can use that if you're using a touchscreen device. So because I'm plugged into like a docking or a monitor, then that is why it quickly disappeared. But you're able to use a touchscreen device to navigate the magnifier in that way, which is why you're able to see that quick plus and minus at the corners of the screen. Moving down, we have color filters, so we can change the color filters of our entire PC, should we so choose. So if you wanted to turn on grayscale, maybe grayscale inverted. Again, if we wanted to put on a color blindness wheel, we can do that as well. So all of that is available. And we also have high contrast. This might be a little bit harsh for some individuals, so I won't turn this on, but we're able to use a high contrast as well and be able to navigate that. Briefly highlighting on narrator. I won't talk about how narrator works and how to navigate it, but one cool thing is for those of us that are using narrator or any kind of screen reader, they upgraded and updated narrator so that it has a quick guide menu. So when I turn it on, I'm going to click OK. So yeah, so I don't want to be overruled by the narrator there, but there's a very accessible quick start guide menu for narrator. So if it's your first time using it, or maybe you're moving away from something like Jaws or Thunder, and you want to start to use and learn narrator, there's now that brand new tool and kind of walkthrough that will be able to help you achieve that, which is pretty awesome. Inside of the hearing component, we can change our device volume, so we can turn on mono audio, and then we can also change our captions. These closed captions simply kind of revolve around the film and the video apps and different more native applications on Windows. And if you're using YouTube or if you're using a different application in that sense, usually they have their own built-in closed captions in that as well. And lastly, navigating to speech, we can actually turn on speech recognition. So remember when we talked about dictate and how I was able to dictate inside of Word? I can have this and set up basically so that I can begin to manually and verbally control my computer. So let me turn that off and let me turn it on now. Open Word. Open blank document. Blank document. Start dictate. Well, actually, I just realized we don't need to start dictate because it will automatically input it. So very simply, we're able to now utilize the speech recognition tool and be able to navigate and use our PC without touching it. We can verbally command it to do different things. And other than maybe a couple spell mistakes in there, it was very prompt, and it's a great new way to navigate your computer as well. We have different keyboard and mouse options. So if you'd like to use sticky keys, where instead of clicking Alt, you have to hold Alt and Shift, you just click Alt and Shift. You can use your on-screen keyboard in case you're missing a physical keyboard, or navigate the different shortcuts as well. And lastly, we have eye control. So if you need to basically hook up like a Tobii eye gaze camera or anything like that, you just plug it into your computer, or set it up depending on what version, like what product or model you buy. And then this is where within your Windows settings, you're able to use eye control and begin navigating with your eyesight where you want to click, where you want to type, and all that kind of phenomenal stuff. So this is where everything can be found, which is pretty great. But that about wraps up our session today. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. And as I promised, you are able to navigate to education.microsoft.com, where Microsoft will provide a badge for you. And so because you attended this 1-hour session, by putting in this code that you can hopefully see on the screen here, you can put that code in after you create an account and get credit for partaking in this 1-hour workshop from Microsoft, which is a pretty great tool. We also have some additional resources that you can check out as well. So you can navigate to support.office.com for any other kind of questions or maybe concerns that you may have had. You're able to go to also office365.uservoice.com, and this is the public-facing basically feedback that Microsoft grabs and generates from consumers. So if there's a feature that you wanted to see, or maybe you wanted to change up a little bit how you're using a product, you can navigate to that link and be able to use that. And lastly, you can also visit teamsdemo.office.com if you want to get a little bit hands-on with Teams. Thank you so much. I will leave this up where you can pause the video in case you want to provide any feedback or feed forward off my presentation today. And you can go in, type that link. It can also be found in the chat, and I would appreciate that. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining our session today. I hope you found something valuable and useful out of it, and that you can implement it in your school. Maybe you can assist your child or your student or anybody to begin implementing that in their daily life. And I do look forward to seeing you at our next workshop. Thank you so much.